everybody. This is Roctavia Rose with Rock News UK. And on the line with me, I have the Disciples of Babylon. I'm going to throw it over to the two wonderful members of the band to introduce themselves to you because I want you to get to know them a little bit better. So, guys, you have the floor. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Eric Knight, lead vocalist.
And I'm Guy Bodie, bass player and backup vocalist, I guess, too.
Awesome. So where are you guys hanging out currently right now? Where are we reaching you from?
Beautiful Los Angeles, California.
Sunny.
Very hot day.
Extremely hot.
Really hot. Oh man, I can't say the same sentiment here in Chicago. It's actually a mild, beautiful Chicago day. Nice kind of breeze out there, and it's perfectly sunny and wonderful. So
Nice.
You guys might hear some motorcycles kind of zooming by my window because I have everything kind of open. So I apologize for any of that background noise, but hey, it's a beautiful day out. So
We love motorcycles.
yes, so do I. I plan on getting one very, very soon. I'm taking my test soon, so
Nice.
I'm nervous.
Did you
Go ahead?
Did you do the safety course?
No, that's what I'm gonna do soon. I'm gonna
Yes.
get all
Absolutely.
yes.
Do that.
I'm doing it the right
100%
way.
behind it. No, that thing actually that thing made me a better driver overall. Everything now that I drive, I think I feel way more responsible and safe, and I kind of know what might happen. Like, we cover a lot of stuff in those courses, and really good stuff.
That's awesome. So what, do you already have a bike currently? Like what?
Yeah.
What do you
I have a Honda VTX 1300.
All right.
It's a big boy.
Yeah.
Or a big girl.
Yeah.
No, it's a big bike. I drive really chill. I literally just cruise, just go around and enjoy the wind on my face.
Yeah. So ever since I was 16, I wanted like a Harley. Like I wanted a Softail, but I've been looking into Indian lately. So
They're gorgeous.
yeah, like the classic feel India. We'll see where I land.
Nice.
But yeah. Okay. So we've been chatting, like we'll get into it. So what I want to know is kind of a little background information on your band, like how you guys came to be. I know you're kind of a diverse motley crew. So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Oh no, go ahead. Tell the beginning of the band.
Yeah, I mean, basically the band started out as an idea that I had in my head, many years ago, of like, wanting to put the ultimate band together. Of what would that comprise? And I had, I've been playing in bands all my life and everything, and I've had some success with some of those projects, but I did the solo thing for many years, and what ended up happening was I just kind of lost that, I missed the feeling of having that camaraderie of having, four guys together, all for one for all kind of thing. And so I had always thought in the back of my mind, I'm going to put another band back together again for sure when the time is right. Or, I'm a very kind of spontaneous Aries. And so when I kind of see things, I kind of just go with it. And it turned out that I happened to see, our guitar player, Ramon, one day. We happened to be friends. We have millions of friends on Facebook that we, don't know how the hell we became friends, and we were friends. And all of a sudden I was going through my feed one day on my phone, and I'm seeing this guy with this video, and I go, I met this guy before because I remember him from the school, because we all went to MI together in Hollywood, Musicians Institute. But at different times. But I was there because I was invited for an event, and I ran into Ramon, but we didn't know who the hell we were, and somehow we became friends. And so one day I was scrolling through my feed, and I'm seeing this video of this guy playing in his apartment, and he was playing
Blackbird
from Alter Bridge.
Nice.
He was doing the guitar solo for it, and I just said, "Holy crap! Can we curse? Or we don't curse?" But I want to make sure we're keeping it family friendly. And I was like, at that very moment, my Aries spontaneity kicked in, and I go, that's the guy that I need for this band. And so I immediately wrote him this like really long message. This guy probably thought I was like stalker guy, and and I told him I really loved what I heard.
He still thinks.
Yeah, he still thinks I'm stalker. And so what happened was, I just told him, I loved what I saw. He just has all the emotion of the playing. He's got the look, he's got everything, and he's got that thing of where he's just, you could just tell, very gifted guitar player. So I told him that, I would love to get together and meet up with you. And, so we ended up getting together at the Starbucks over there on Hollywood Boulevard, right across from our school. And I just sat there and I told him in no uncertain terms, I said, I want to put the biggest band in the planet together. And I think you're the guy for that. And so I basically, told him about all my influences and kind of, where my background was. And we both had that, we shared that same vision of all the great rock bands. And, and basically the idea was, I told him that I wanted to kind of put together a band that was from all the great eras, like from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, taking bits and pieces of each of those elements of the great bands from those times, and putting together what is now what I feel like what we're starting to achieve. And so that's kind of the way that started. And then me and Ramon began to write songs. We after we spoke together, we got together for a couple of writing sessions. Immediately wrote one of our songs that was in our first EP for Arrive. We did that like in 30 minutes. It was like literally like a Domino's pizza. We put it in 30 minutes. It was out the door.
Boom.
And we realized that, and it was weird because I get these weird feelings. And even from seeing the video of Ramon, I immediately got the innate feeling that I just knew that we were going to have great chemistry writing together and all of these things. And so the minute we had those first two initial sessions, it just gelled and we just clicked and everything was great. And so we started talking as we kept writing through the weeks and months. Ramon suggested, we need to start putting the actual rest of the band together. And I asked him if he had anybody in mind. I had a few people in mind, but, Ramon immediately said, I know of this guy. And it turned out to be Guy. And they were, they lived in the opposing building to each other because the dorms that they had, because Guy's from Brazil and Ramon came from Spain to go to school in Hollywood. And so they were in the opposing building next to each other. So one day, he came to the house, to Ramon's place, and he had that same smile right now that he's smiling right now, that same face. And I just knew this guy is like, first of all, the sweetest guy in the world, and super talented. And he immediately started contributing to what we were doing. And it just clicked, and I said, well, this is the guy. And we immediately got D. And then we started figuring out, well, we need a drummer. I think we auditioned every drummer in LA probably like 3 times.
Oh my goodness.
It was a process.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we ended up,
I mean, like, your drummer, that's the heartbeat. I get it.
Like,
yeah
Is how I play drums.
You
like,
need the right guy.
Yeah, you do.
The heart,
you do.
Yeah. And so after we had an original drummer, which actually was from the school too, Ray, which was an incredible drummer, great friend. That didn't pan out initially, and so we auditioned a ton of other drummers again, and it turned out Chris, which is the guy that we had originally, that I had actually kind of picked in one of these
chosen,
ended up being the drummer, and and kind of the rest is history with that.
Awesome. So like, going back to like the very start, what inspired you to become a musician? What inspired you, Guy, to pick up, a bass guitar or guitar initially? What inspired you to, try to pursue this as something that, you're actually putting your life's work, your heart into?
Right. Well, I've always been really into music, I think, my whole life. When I was a little kid, I'd see my sister playing piano. I have an older sister, and like younger brothers were like, oh, I want to do exactly what she's doing. So I tried piano at first when I was 6, 7 years old. But she was having classical guitar, piano classes, sorry, and I couldn't really stick to the regimen of practice practicing and studying and applying myself and reading music and all that at that age. I loved music, but I wasn't able to commit to that. I guess I was too uh, I don't know, OCD. I was always running around and wanted to play soccer, down in Brazil, soccer.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, and but then when I was a teenager, um, in high school, I remember a friend of mine bringing his, and I'm gonna date myself now. He brought his Discman with this CD, and he's like, "You gotta listen
Losing
to it."
yourself there,
And then I put on
Discman.
the headphones a little bit. So I put on the headphones, and he's like, he hits play, and I hear this guitar. It was Thunderstruck by AC/DC.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. We gotta do this. So then we got together, a group of friends, and uh, I had one friend already, lefty guy. So he'd been playing guitar for a little while. So he's like, hey, I play guitar a little bit already. My other friend was like, hey, I've always wanted to learn the drums. So, I have the space for it in my bedroom. So I'm just going to go get a drum set. And I'm like, okay, we got a guitar. I'm going to play bass. Literally, that's how I ended up playing bass, because it was the last thing that we had to put together to form that first band of ours. And I fell in love with it. I was very fortunate to have had my first bass teacher being a multi-instrumentalist, because when I first approached him, he was like, okay, so do you play any stringed instruments? I was like, no. He's like, cool. So let me make a deal with you. I'll teach you 3 months of acoustic guitar, because I want to give you a good foundation on chord formation, on how things are put together
Finger
harmonically.
string. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And to start, of course, to creating a little bit of calluses, because if you go straight to the bass, it might be a little too heavy for you right now. So we did that, and then we went on to bass, and I've been playing bass ever since. And long story short, I had another career back in Brazil, but when the opportunity to come here to the US to give music a try presented itself, I just took it, and here I am 11 years later, still doing it.
Fantastic. Eric, how'd you get started with everything?
I got started, from a very early age. Literally, I saw Kiss on television.
Awesome.
And I just go, what the hell is this? And how do I join? So, I'm a huge fan of comic books. I have like a major comic book collection. And so I saw these guys, and they looked like superheroes to me. And I'm going, wow. And they're doing music. I was like, holy crap, I want to do that. So that's basically how it started. And, even a little bit previously to that, making that epiphany with Kiss, I was doing stuff in school from a very early age. I was singing in plays and doing all these kind of things for different events at school. And so it just kind of became natural to me. I was a big sports fan too. I was actually trying to pursue a career playing football, but when I realized how these guys get injured, and I just said, you know what, this is kind of not for me. I competed for a very long time, even through up to junior high and stuff. But then I kind of just said, this is not going to be this, and I just kind of just pursued it full bore. But yeah, music has been a part of my life, from a very young age. Like you, Roctavia, I play multiple instruments that I've learned by ear. I learned how to play guitar. My dad was a rhythm guitar player in a lot of bands growing up back home in Miami. I'm originally from Miami. And so I learned actually, guitar. And then in school, I learned how to play drums, saxophone, tenor sax.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
And I fiddled around with clarinet a little bit and trumpet, but I love kind of saxophone and stuff. So, so just learning everything by ear, piano, everything. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And I've never looked back ever since. It's been, nonstop.
That's fantastic. So
I feel like you're in the mafia. It's like you either die or there's no way out of it. Once you get hooked, and you're
Oh yeah. So I want to know a little bit more about your musical heroes. I know you saw Kiss and you were like, wow, like Eric on your end, and he let me who did you see growing up? Because we all have that like that aha moment where we see that one band or that one lead singer, that one musician is like, oh man, I gotta get in on that. Wow.
Gee, what were some of yours?
Oof, man. It's funny though, because again, I think I got into, actually really got into music a little later on in life. I'd listen to music again, and I would play music and everything, but like really immerse myself in music came a little later. So when I started attending concerts, I remember my first mind-blowing concert was Deep Purple in
Yeah.
São Paulo. Dude,
Yes.
the moment I saw Ian Pace drumming like a madman, Ian Gillan screaming his ass off, Roger Glover shredding the bass. I was like, I had no idea you could play bass like that with a pick. That's when
Right,
later on I
right,
started,
right, right, right.
going back to my bass heroes, Paul McCartney, Gene Simmons. They all play with a pick. Uh, but and then they had just uh, changed the lineup, so Steve Morse was the guitar player. It was, I think, like the first tour
Jim
that they
Four,
they were
Jim
doing.
Four.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
dude! You see Steve Morse live, you can't help yourself but being in awe. Like the guy's tone, technique, and musicality is just so mind blowing. So that was for sure my biggest, like, latest. No, wait. What am I trying to say? My biggest influence at first, when I first started going out to seeing concerts and all. Later on came Whitesnake, Judas Priest, local rock and metal bands as well, because then I started really, the people that I was hanging out with were really into heavy metal. So I just dived right in. Sepultura, Angra, even a couple of years later, Shaman, like a bunch of really good metal bands from Brazil. And yeah, everything else came from that experience that I had with Purple. I just couldn't stop wanting to go and check out more bands live.
Yeah, and I
Incredible.
would say the kind of the same for, I mean, I was very fortunate again because I had music because my dad was playing in bands since I was a little kid, a baby. So I grew up with music in my home 24 hours, 7 days a week, a lot of R&B, jazz, Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, all those type of bands. So I grew up listening to a lot of different styles of music, which I think was great. But obviously, my love and my passion was hard rock and heavy metal. Some of the same bands that he's mentioning, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, the whole
Oh
new
yeah.
wave British heavy metal movement.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
all of that stuff, that was like, kind of ingrained into my DNA. And so, so by the time that that this whole chance meeting with Ramon happened, coming from Spain, they're big, it's interesting because Guy with Brazil. Brazil is one of the biggest metal communities in the planet. And you've got
Dude.
Spain, which is another huge metal. I mean, they have got such a huge network there of metal and everything. And so, when I intersected with Ramon, it was just like perfect because we'd all listened to the same thing. And then it was the same kind of thing. I think probably Chris is the one that's more on the outskirts. He listens
Mm.
to more of the kind of screamo. I mean, he listens to everything. We all listen to everything. That's what the beautiful thing about the band is that we can appreciate all styles of
Yeah,
music as long as they're
exactly.
great songs. Um, but that's kind of how this whole kind of thing meshes together in this because of Guy's background with Brazil and Spain and I'm Cuban even though I don't look it. We have all of this Latin kind of multi influence and it's kind of like this big kind of like gumbo pot of like influences. So it's amazing.
Where did your band name come from? Like I've been curious about this from the start.
The name actually came up from research that I was doing. We all keep like lists of band names. I know I do, and I had all these tons of names that I had kept. And one day I was reading stuff about the history of Babylon, and how that all came about, and the whole rise and fall of Babylon, which actually turned out to be one of our titles of our records. And there was something in one of the texts that I was reading, and they were talking about the people of Babylon, but they, instead of referring them as the citizens of Babylon, they referred to them as the disciples of Babylon. And I thought that that was such a like striking name when I had heard that. You know, a lot of people tend to think that it's from the band Dragon Force that we took that name because they have a song called Disciples of Babylon, but it's not. And I had it for many years, and so I kind of, after I read that, I was like, man, this is such a cool name that I just tucked it away in my list of band names. And I said, one day I'm going to use that name. And it was, again, it was a series of events. I met Ramon, saw the thing, and I said, this is it, Disciples of Babylon, this is going to be the band name. I had already had it all kind of pre-planned in my head. And then I, you know, initially told Ramon, what do you think of the name? And he was like, cool. And so the name really represents Babylon as America. It's a metaphor for America. You've probably seen things about how they talk about Babylon being, America being part of the new version of Babylon, and, you know, and how we're kind of self-destructing ourselves and all that stuff. So it's a big metaphor. And even with our music, you know, we talk about those kind of things with songs like Liberty and We Are the Ones and all that stuff. So it was kind of a perfect way to kind of represent what it's about. I mean, people think that like we're either, it's the funniest thing, people either think we're like a Christian band or we're like a death metal
right
band.
I was kind of wondering that, like, I know, do you guys do like philanthropic stuff, or like?
We definitely do. We definitely are big into charities and wanting to, you know, our thing is about unifying people and not dividing them. Like, this is what's been happening for the last, you know, few years in particular, but it's been going on much more longer than that. And so our thing is we want to put things out there in our music. You know, there's always kind of like a silver lining in our music, but we want to be the mirror to people around the world and bring to people's attention what it is that's going on. But I know that we all can agree in the band that we want to unify people through our music. We don't want to divide. And music is really the one thing on the face of this planet, I don't care, it's over religion, over any other medium on the face of the planet, that can bring people together is music. And so that's kind of why I'm doing this. And there was a famous quote from Jimi Hendrix, which I thought I had. I thought it was my quote. I was like, oh, music is my religion. And I Hendrix quote, and I was like, what's that? But music truly, at least for me personally, I don't know about the other guys, but it is my religion 100%, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I live, eat, breathe, sleep it. And so, you know, we want to kind of, you know, through our music, you know, send a message of positivity and making people aware of what's going on. Like other bands in the past, you've got bands like U2 that were very politically and very socially conscious. That's what I think our band is we're a very socially conscious band, you know.
That's perfect. You kind of covered the next question that I had. You segued right into it and covered it. I was going to ask what message that your band was trying to relay to the world through your music, what you're trying to get out there. And, you know, that was, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's perfect. But on to my next question, what kind of sound profile for those that haven't discovered you yet? Like, I know we spoke about like classic rock and metal. So like, does that relay? I've listened, but for people who haven't, does that relay into your current sound? What is your current sound profile?
I'm gonna let Dee answer, but
yeah.
I'm gonna let Dee answer, but I like to call our sound new classic rock. That's the tag that
new classic.
Because it's got all the elements of all the different classic rock bands and the current rock bands, and it's got a modern touch to it. So, that's what I'm calling.
Yeah, I think because we have so many different influences, it's and we do not hold back anything. We make music that we like, that makes us happy. So we tend to just fuse a bunch of different things. We're, of course, really heavy on guitar and guitar riffs, but at the same time, we put in some electronic elements into our music. We like to make really pop vocal melodies, and we just put all of that together. We want the big anthem stadium sing-alongs, but with heavy guitars and some electronic stuff in it, and
Yeah.
just we just like to uh, really add all the elements of every single genre that we like, and just create this thing. And I guess that's Disciples.
You gotta love like that stadium band feel. Like last night I was just at what's called the Hella Mega Tour, where there's bands called the Interrupters,
Yeah.
Weezer,
Yeah.
All Out Boy, and
Uh-huh.
Green Day,
Love
all pack fans into this stadium, and we all rock out, and it was heaven on earth. It felt so good
I
after
bet.
the last year to be there and seeing all the people who grew up with this music. You can tell we're starting to get a little long in the tooth. But and then there's also people who are like discovering this music too, and like to have that stadium crowd, to be in a stadium crowd feel, man, that's the best feeling ever. I love that you're trying to pipe out stadium style music. I love it.
That is
100%.
that's exactly that. It's funny because when I first spoke to Ramon and we were writing as a band, I told him I want to write anthems, songs that people are going to be screaming every word back to us. And again, I go back to bands like U2. You go to a U2 concert and people are like screaming every word to every song.
Mhm.
Bono can stop singing and you're just hearing the whole crowd singing.
All right, everybody, we're back. We had some technical snafus, so we had to start a second session. So we're having some good conversation here. So where do we leave off? We left off on the sound profiles, right?
Yeah.
Eric was mentioning U2's concerts.
Yeah, that was kind of the blueprint for what I wanted to do. I want to write songs that an entire stadium is going to be singing back to us. That pretty much sums it up.
Perfect. So I have to ask you, what would your biggest dream for Disciples of Babylon to come true? Like the best thing ever you could ever imagine for the band?
I think it's just doing what we do, continuing to play music, making a living doing it, playing all the major events, things that we've dreamed about, download, all the major festivals, but I think ultimately, at least for me, is to continue playing with these guys. I have such a love for each one of the guys in the band. Just really great people.
He is blushing.
Really, I consider everybody family, and I've learned a lot from the previous projects that I've been in, and like I said, this to me was like putting together the ultimate project in my head, what I kind of envisioned, and these are the guys that manifested themselves, and they're just such good people. It's very hard to be in a band, as everybody knows. There's a lot of egos, attitudes. There's so many different variables that people just, and to find people that
You tell me about it.
and to find people that are
Is there some residual like?
Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean,
I certainly have PTSD from bands.
Oh.
But ultimately, these are the guys that I love to play with because they're very good people. Come from good family. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better group of guys to be playing with. So I'm very thankful. But so to me, I feel like I've already accomplished success because these are great guys that I would love to continue playing with, and just continuing to write music and just trying to keep elevating the bar. And our fans, we've got fans from all over the world that have been super, super supportive of us. So yeah,
That's perfect. So how long have you guys all been together?
Since 2000, I want to say 11.
well,
12.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
when we started. That's right.
But we officially came out in 2015 with our first release. So it was the first
Uh-huh.
2 years were us just writing, putting together all the elements, recording,
Right.
and so yeah,
Doing pre-production with Andy.
that was Andy exactly. Yeah.
He helped us a lot in the beginning. It still does. Andres Torres, our producer, and our first drummer for our EP.
Yeah.
He actually laid down the drum parts. Incredible guy. You probably know him through his biggest hit that he helped to put out, Luis Fonsi's Despacito.
yeah.
So he worked on that.
That the guy doing Despacito does a rock, but he's a huge hard rock metal guy too.
Oh no, yeah, I remember us talking about his influences, and then he started talking like, I like Incubus, but the old stuff, like, yeah, he knows his stuff, like he knows his rock and roll.
Yeah.
And yeah, overall, because I play with Andy too, because me, him, and Ramon attended Musicians Institute together same year, and we played together in like punk rock bands, and you would turn on your social medias and he'd be playing reggaeton, and like the guy can play anything, and he is a very accomplished songwriter as well. So the guy is just brilliant. So it's been a blessing for us to be able to work with such a caliber of a musician and producer and songwriter and engineer. He's also a great sound engineer.
Yeah, he's a gifted arranger too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
are the best arranger I've ever come across.
Oh yeah, and he's like, no BS. Like he gets in the studio, play me the song. We start playing. He doesn't even go through the whole song. He's like, stop this section. We need to cut it off, or cut it in half, or move it somewhere else.
That's beautiful. That's kind of like one of the rarest gems, because editing is really important. Yeah. Like sometimes you want to throw the whole kitchen sink at everything, but
yeah, and it's crazy. You see like bands that really made it. I guess the biggest example, the Beatles. If they didn't have George Martin by their side, they wouldn't have been what they became.
Right.
Like
exactly.
Hands down, that guy just helped them a lot. Classically trained musician with arrangement knowledge and strings and orchestra related instruments. He just took him to the next level.
There's a reason why he's called the fifth Beatle.
He's straight up he was.
So what would you guys say your most memorable moment with the band has been thus far?
I know mine.
Go ahead, you go, because I talk too much.
No, you're done. I think our last show at the Viper Room was a really, really cool event, because it was something that we put together pretty much ourselves. And when I say ourselves, mainly this guy, which in my screen, it's down here. So Eric did pretty much the whole thing. He put the whole thing together. And it was just awesome to play, in your hometown and have all your friends and family come to check you out. And it was really just a celebration of the band, of live music, of friendships. And I recall that, and it always puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, that I would have to probably agree with I mean, it's so weird. We've had so many great shows, like no joke. Like, I mean, there's been so many great shows, again, because these guys certainly make me look good. Gifted musicians, but that Viper Room show, was definitely a high point, because everything just kind of came together. It was all our fans, friends. I mean, it was just packed.
It was packed.
You couldn't halfway. I mean, it was just insane, and just a great night of just sharing this hard work that we put together, putting that that last record together, and just it was very rewarding.
Awesome. So what does the ultimate tour look like for you guys? Like favorite venues, favorite gig. Like if you could put together at least like 3 points of like, or at least like a major point of a tour, what would you put together?
I would say just, I mean, ultimately, doing like something like what Metallica and Guns N' Roses are doing, playing stadiums all over the planet.
Yeah.
I would love for it to be build us with Muse and probably somebody like Royal Blood.
Yeah, Royal Blood.
Woo! Love it.
I think that would be like an amazing thing because we're all huge Muse fans and huge Royal Blood fans, and just that would be amazing. But just to be able to play every night. I mean, I frankly don't care if it's in front of 1,000 people or 100 people or 10,000 or 100,000. I just want to play. So.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if we are allowed to dream a little bit, I'd say there's a couple of places that I would really be taking like top of the list type of venues. I would love to play at the Forum here because it was the first big venue that I went to check out the Foo Fighters a while ago.
I love the Foo Fighters. They're the best.
Oh my gosh, I love them too. He's such a good songwriter. I mean, Dave Grohl is just incredible. He can sing, he can write songs on guitar, and he's a badass drummer.
And he's really kind and considerate. Like he looks out.
He does look like that.
In bands, and kind of likes to like. He's great with like helping bands get their start and like get their foothold, get their sound out there. I love him. He's amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing human being.
When I went to their show, they had Bush in the bill as well, but they had this fairly unknown back then band, Cage the Elephant, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like those 3 bands together worked really well. It was just really a great evening of really cool music. So Forum here in LA. I mean, if I ever play Madison Square Garden, I don't know if my heart will be able to handle it, but that'd be a big one. And
see what he says for England. I know he's going to say the same one that I say for England. Go.
Well, I was first going to go back home. So there's this stadium in São Paulo that hosted most of the shows that I attended back home. So it's the stadium for the soccer team of São Paulo. So Cícero Pompeu de Toledo, that's the name of the actual stadium. And it's big stadium. It was one of the last U2 concerts that I watched when I was still back in Brazil. And then I watched them here at the Angel Stadium. But Wimbledon too, I mean, I guess that had to be in the list.
Wembley Arena? Yeah, I would say Wembley Arena.
Wembley is like ridiculous.
Yeah, Wembley Arena, Royal Albert Hall in England. I would say Budokan in Japan. And
oh yeah, Budokan, so good. Mr. Big, Dream Theater, off the top of my head, Cheap Trick.
Yes.
Everybody play there.
And then of course back home, for me, Miami, I would love to play, like Dolphin Stadium on the roof. Nice. So, of course, and then the Forum for sure. I would love to play the Greek Theater here. The Greek Theater here in LA.
Yeah.
It's a small, intimate, I think it's like a 3,000 seater, but just beautiful because it's like
gorgeous.
Outside in the stars and you're just looking up. I think Greta Van Fleet has a show coming up now at the Greek, and I've seen a bunch of concerts there. That's probably one of the most gorgeous places to play a venue. And Red Rocks in Colorado.
Red Rocks.
Oh yeah, Red Rock is pretty cool.
The ones that
My soul is. Get you guys to the Greek.
Exactly.
Heck yeah.
So what do you guys do to wind down? What do you do for fun as a band?
I'm trying to think. As a band, we usually
in general, like what do you do? Like what do you do for fun? Like everybody has their I don't know. There's a lot of stress with being a musician and touring, and like you have everything with all angles coming from you. Like, oh, are they gonna like this new thing that I'm putting out? What's this? What's that? Like, I have all these people who I have to like work with, and you know, everything's coming at me, and like, you know, I just kind of like to ask, like, so what do you do to keep grounded?
I think for me would be personally would be you know I do I mean we've been isolated as everybody knows for a year and a half now, and things are starting to get crazy again. You know, here especially in LA, they're starting the mask mandates again. So I love reading, so I'm a really voracious reader. So I'm constantly reading stuff. So that's kind of one way. I love, you know, watching movies. And yeah, I think those are kind of some of my pastimes. I know it sounds pretty boring, but
No,
I like watching old horror movies. Like lately, there's been this show on TV that I came across, and they show all like these old classic horror movies, and they're cheesy as hell.
I
So
love the campy horror movies.
yeah, so I've been doing that a lot lately, just kind of hanging out and just watching that. So that's it. And then you know, going out to parks and stuff like. I mean, that's kind of my thing. So, Steve, I don't know about you.
Oh man, I have so many things that I like to do. I actually have to control myself sometimes not to, you know, just do the things that I like to, but go back to working. But I I guess I love movies. I actually I fell in love with uh, you know, movies again because a really and of course I'm biased, but you guys can check out for yourselves. A really good friend of mine put out a really special movie. It's called 9 Days. He's a fellow Brazilian friend of mine. I met him ages ago, I actually helped him transition from Brazil to LA because he went to USC to do his directing and screenwriting course. And man, he just put out this beautiful movie called 9 Days by Edson Oda, which was purchased by Sony Classics. So I don't know if you know the repertoire that Sony Classics acquire.
That's impressive.
They are really,
Yeah,
really
no.
good.
And he's got videos.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And what else? I love to ride my bike, even if it's, you know, going next door to the groceries to, you know, just to take it out and have fun for a second. And I also do love cooking. I spend a lot of time in the kitchen. I was one of those guys that contributed to the lack of starters and dry yeast in the market the moment the pandemic and the lockdown hit us.
You were bread baking it up, huh?
Bread maniac.
I love to bake. Like I'm a nerd. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, I am.
Join the club.
I love the fact that baking is, a lot of people don't like baking because it's precise, and essentially it's chemistry that you can eat, and I'm all about that. So yeah,
Same here.
bring it on.
I tell my friends, like, I don't do stuff you know, like, oh yeah, you just a pinch of this or cups of that. I'm like, no, give me the grams that I need to be able to cook this or that. So yeah, that you know,
I mean, I can diversify too, because like I make a lot of Italian food. Because like sometimes with Italian food, especially when you scratch make stuff, like you do kind of like, you have to make it by love. Like you got to make it by feel and like here and pinches there. But like I kind of like find comfort in like, you know, you're regimented in baking and you make something, and then when it comes out just how you envision it, or if not better, and then somebody takes a bite and they're just like, they look at you like
exactly.
That's my favorite. Like when you bake something and somebody takes a bite and they just like, huh?
Absolutely. My friends and family are tired of me throwing little French baguettes at them because that's all I do.
I've had lots of beef cooking, and I can attest it's all very good. All that Brazilian, have those crazy Brazilian parties. I'm all about it.
Yep.
So back to business. Your recent single, the most recent single, Liberty. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, where it grew out of, and like a little bit about the process.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it immediately grew out of what was going on in the country. Again, getting back to Babylon and the whole metaphor for Babylon in America, it definitely came as a direct result of what was happening and what continues to happen with the whole division in this country and the craziness that's going on. And so it was immediately, I had the idea. I remember storming into one of our rehearsals one day and I said, okay, guys, this is what's going on. Here's the melody, and then I think was showing everybody. Everybody's like, okay, calm the hell down, and let's take it one step at a time. So it kind of came from I just heard. I tend to hear the melodies. I know Z probably does the same thing. I'll hear melodies in my head, and I cannot. If it's something that I cannot get out of my head for like a day, then I go, okay, I have something here that
You
I
need to put it out.
Right.
worthwhile. And so I remember coming into one of our rehearsals and just saying, guys, I've got an idea. I need everybody to just kind of listen to my craziness because I'll drive people crazy because I'm the type of writer that I'm hearing all the parts in my head at once.
Yeah.
So I not only hear what I'm singing, but I'm hearing what the guitar is doing. I can tell you what the drum's going to do. And so,
That's
sometimes I have to kind of calm down because these guys want to strangle me because I'm like, wait a minute, the time and let's go from there. So it came out of that, and then we just started building, and then of course everybody kind of started putting their parts and their pieces again, starting to make that gumbo song soup that we started doing. And it was our first song that Chris produced, our drummer, which he's an amazing producer in his own right. And you know and so it was all of these culmination of things that were happening in the country at the time, and like I said, what continues to happen now. And it's something that it speaks true today. The lyrics, give me liberty, kind of came from the idea of that famous speech, give me liberty or give me death. I don't know why, when I was singing the song in my head, that line was the line that was in my head, and I was like, wow. So I wrote that down, started researching more, and then that's kind of how the lyrics developed from there.
Right. So that's deep. It's pretty deep. Yeah. There's a lot going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a single like that. A lot going on. Um, so on that note, what do you guys see in the most immediate future for Disciples of Babylon? Like, is there going to be a full length LP, or is it going to be another EP? Like, what can you tell us anything about, what's in your future plans?
Well, right now we are wrapping up a series of acoustic videos that we shot during the pandemic, and I'm finally doing the last bit of the putting together process. Actually, Eric needs to touch up a couple things, but the meat and potatoes are pretty much done. I'm just waiting for clearance from the other members of the band. But I think for now, because of again, things are opening up, but certain things are closing down. I had a couple of gigs canceled on me because I'm a work for hire musician as well.
Mm-hmm.
And for now, I think just trying our best to write more songs and maybe come up with an album as soon as we can.
Yeah, I think the idea is to continue what we did with Liberty, is to continue releasing singles. That seems to be like the ongoing trend now with everybody, is that
right.
Releasing singles. So we're working on another song right now that actually it was Chris's idea, that we're getting ready to wrap up very soon and release that. And I think the idea is to continue releasing singles. I'm not quite sure in terms of the band if we're going to be there's a live streaming event that we're talking about putting together now. That may be the only gig that we kind of do this year. I think we're going to wait until 2022 to really start aggressively performing and touring again, because things are starting to close down again, and there's a lot of talk with these mask mandates and everything. And so we had another live gig that we were going to announce, but it just kind of fell through, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise because of everything that's going on here in LA and just around the country. So I think what we're going to continue to do is build singles put those out, and then eventually it's going to lead us to the next release, which should be probably a full length. If not, it'll be an EP, but it'll probably be a full length next year. But we kind of just want to make sure things are done with all this craziness. You know, I think a couple other bands like Pearl Jam, they've decided they're not going to tour at all. And they had a record that came out during all of this, and they decided not to tour at all until this whole craziness ends. So, you know, we want to try to do the responsible thing. I know, I mean, I'm so desperate to play again, but like,
Yeah.
at this point, it's like I'd rather be safe than sorry, and I would hate to be responsible for putting on an event or getting sick and just, you know. So I think, you know, we're going to kind of just lay low, keep putting out our singles. We've got a ton of content, like Dee mentioned, with these acoustic videos that we're excited about putting out, and, you know, and some other things that we're going to be doing. So that's kind of like the game plan.
Sounds like a plan. So yeah, it's I wish everything was going in a much different direction, but you know, we have to work with what we have going on right now, and you know, we have to be responsible for, you know, everything that's going on, but you know, you can only do so much. So just hope that everything turns around for the better here in the near future, and you know, we can keep going on the trend of having these events, things get better, and you know, we can see at least a little bit of normalcy. I know things won't probably go back to like immediately the way things used to be, but like, you know, a positive trend would be nice. You know.
Agreed.
On that note, so we're coming to the end of our official time together, aka my line of questions. Thanks for being such good sports while we all work through those technical difficulties on the audio end. I'm glad we could have our chat today. I like to end with a kind of weird off-the-cuff question. And since your band's name is Disciples of Babylon, I kind of wondered if you could travel back in time to any period of time.
Ooh.
Where would you go? What would you do? And why?
Okay, I need a minute to think about this one.
Well, he's thinking. I think I'm trying to think. My God, I think it would probably be, you know, the beginning of like rock and roll, like, you know.
Great answer.
It's not like, you know, the rhythm and blues players, you know. Now some of the names are going to escape me now because I'm thinking, but like, you know, that time period of when rock and roll was beginning, and being in that time, and just kind of seeing how the genre developed, and you know, just looking at the players and how this came to be, and that to me would be really cool to go back to that time and just kind of relive that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing, but maybe even a little before the father of rock and roll. I'd go back and check out the Blues Cats in the beginning. I don't know if I would go as far as Robert Johnson and his Crossroad story, but definitely I'd love to check out the time around when all the Kings were around, BB, Freddie, Albert, and just check out that scene, because I think that was like just mind blowing. You know, maybe even check out soul, rhythm and blues. You know, check out Ray Charles when he was getting started. Like, that must have been insane. Just hearing that guy play and sing was like, I can only imagine people's reactions, because to this day, one of my favorite things to do when I get back home and I need to unwind is start to prep whatever it is that I'm gonna cook to eat and put on my Ray Charles vinyl and just crank it up.
Love that. Yeah, I could definitely relate to that. I'd probably like plop myself back in like a room where Little Richard was first getting everybody to like shake and literally rock and roll, because it was very frowned upon to gyrate and move
Yeah.
in that manner.
Yeah.
He was like, whatever, let's have fun.
Absolutely.
Chuck Becker, I mean, all those guys, all of
Yeah,
those
Chuck
guys.
Berry,
Chuck Berry, yeah,
Howlin' Wolf.
all
Yes.
yeah, all of the originators. We wouldn't. There would be no rock and roll. There would be no heavy metal. There would be none of this if it wasn't for them. So that's why I kind of put myself back in that time to see how that.
Check out the Chicago scene. Check out Memphis. Check out even Nashville. A little bit of the country scene too back in the day. You know, check out Cash live. Like that must have been
Johnny
really
Cash.
Cool.
Oh yes, yes please.
That whole era is just mind blowing. What these artists were accomplishing, like way ahead of their times. All of them, just incredible musicians.
I couldn't agree with you more. And on that note, I want to thank you guys for your time today. We keep running low on time, which is good. It's a positive thing.
I guess it's good.
A lot to cover, a lot to talk about. I really wanted to get, you guys introduced to an international audience. So mission accomplished. With what time we do have left, I wanted you to go ahead and take the floor. Please do plug your socials. Leave everybody with what you want your lasting impression to be. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, I would say the best way to get in touch with us is disciplesofbabylon.com. We do have a free giveaway that you can get our debut EP for free if you go to disciplesofbabylon.net, and I think it's /free music or it's /free. Either one of those two will work, and you can sign up and get into our mailing list that way. And you can find us on Instagram at Disciples of Babylon, Twitter at Disciples of Baby, like a little baby, and Facebook would be Babylon Band Official. And that's it. You can find us on Spotify and all that good stuff. We're everywhere. So.
All right, sounds great. So I am again. Go ahead.
And thank you. I wanted to say from both of us and from the other guys, again, thanks.
It's been a pleasure.
For the support and and for supporting what you're doing for not only us but for all emerging bands. I think it's really amazing, this network of people that we've grown to know over the years and our international audience and everything. And so thank you for what you do.
Of course. I mean, hey, we gotta support each other. Absolutely. I mean, I kind of had a situation where it was hard for me to get that support. So my goal is to support a lot of people and musicians that people don't know about, and of course, de nada, nothing. It's nothing. But anyway, thank you again, and I am Roctavia Rose with Rock News UK. We have had the pleasure of chatting with Disciples of Babylon. Please, again, do check out all their socials, stream their music, give them a try, and we'll see you later. Thanks, everybody. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good night.